Hello and welcome everyone to another episode. Yay, so after, many people requesting this and kind of just wondering and wanting me to do a video about this, I decided to do a video just kind of on the outer and inner workings of the ship and how it was constructed and what what my intentions are with it, which I still am not sure yet. But I'll start on all of that, and then I think we're going to hit the VAB just so I can show you guys a little bit on how I created some of this stuff and, basically where, you can create a part this big and it works and you can line everything up as precisely as I did. Because I think that's some of the stuff that some people are kind of trying to wonder about. Now, the one thing I do have to mention is I did refuel this thing a little bit, which I'll do a little burn for the engines, just so you guys can see all the engines going at once. Now, I did tweak these back a little bit, I believe. Oh, no, I did not. Well, let's see. We are not using all of our electrical charge, so that is very good. I kind of expected us to, basically end up using most of the electrical charge, just doing a burn on this ship, which I think I'm going to turn off the lights. Now, the one thing I will say is, designing a ship like this, you want to put a lot of SAS on it, and you want to just make sure that you put enough to where it will be fairly stable, because if you don't, you will encounter a lot of problems involving just basic functionality and control and everything else. It really does help out a lot with the SAS and the stabilization of it. I mean, this is a fairly stable craft in how big it is, but there are certain limitations and certain things that I can add on to it or remove from it. So I'll turn the lights back on here just so we can have a little bit better of a view and a picture and all that good stuff. So this whole ship consists basically of just 5 very large modules, one of them being the bridge, then the docking bay here, the power generation module, the large massive fuel module, fuel and production module, and then, just the engines themselves. Now, the one thing you gotta really work out, and this was kind of before they really released the larger size fuel tanks and a lot of these things that are now stock in the game. One of the things that I find problems with is trying to build a launcher for it, and just because if each part is a little bit different in weight, and you got to figure out how you're going to launch it, what you're going to do with it, and how you're going to get it into orbit and everything else. And launching something like this where it's 70 or 80 tons, it makes some issues with different things. Even the power generation module, which doesn't look like much, actually weighs about as much as this one empty. So this one full is, I don't even know, but the total mass of this ship, I believe, fueled, is well over 1,000 tons. So it just gives you guys an idea on how big this thing is. With this module, the one thing I will say, I'm not going to go over all the fuel inside this thing, because you guys can already see what is basically in it, and you can get a good idea on how much fuel this thing has to hold. But the one thing I will mention, and I generally always do this, and I don't plan on fueling this module fully, but I always end up bringing way too much RCS fuel, and RCS fuel is kind of one of those things that you really don't need. With a ship like this, you want it to be stable, but as long as you put enough SAS modules on this a ship this size, it should be relatively stable. Turning it will take a very long time, and the SAS helps out a bit, or I mean the RCS helps out a little bit, but it really just doesn't make much of a difference overall. I mean, it does and it doesn't. I don't want to... It's a double-edged sword. It does help, but the extent of which it does is really hard to tell. I mean, my frame rate right now is very low, and the only thing that really generally helps is turning the lights off. And other than that, I mean, the engines being off is the other thing that will help out too. But we ain't getting anywhere with no engines running. So we'll turn the lights back on, and you know, with this module, I mean, each one of them had its own separate purpose. The one thing I wanted is something to dock to. We needed something to store fuel in, and we obviously needed engines. So the rest of it kind of was up to my decision. Now, the one thing with these that I kind of messed up on and I overlooked is the nuclear power modules themselves. They do have a limited lifespan if you were to actually place each one separately. This is kind of a modded module. They are all welded. Each piece is welded. So it's just one giant tank. In essence, it's just a massive tank. So with these, they're all welded together, so it kind of screwed things up, and I tried my best to make it more realistic, but there's only so much I could do to it before things just got messed up. And, you know, obviously with this one, you know, I wanted Kerbal storage, which we got plenty of that with both of these modules on the bottom and the top. These things right here would be the radiators for the heat generated by the nuclear reactors. And, yeah, I mean, in the front here, I really wanted some kind of a bridge, which is what we really got. And I'm really happy with how this bridge turned out. So let's see, where is the bridge? I believe it's this one. Yeah, there we go. This would be our bridge. This is what we get to see now that we have a completed ship. Looks like we're just about to run out of hydrogen too, which we use a fairly large amount of hydrogen, but we also have a pretty big tank for it too. So we'll get out of this view and just go back out here. So this is pretty much what it looks like with all the engines running, all the ion engines, all the hydrogen engines, and the regular rocket fuel engines. Now, I'm really debating on this, and I really don't know if it's even possible. I mean, I'm pretty sure with these mods, you can create an ion-powered ship that would probably work just as effectively as a regular chemical rocket. But the main problem is it's just that the solar panels in this game, or at least in the mods that I have, the solar panels are a little bit outlandish in a way. I mean, I could go for a nuclear powered engine or a nuclear powered ion probe, and I think that would be the best bet. But you know, the solar panels in this game right now, at least as far as the stock ones and the ones that comes with the mods, the biggest one produces like 1,000 power, and it just looks silly looking to me. And that's just my opinion, but I think we're going to stop our burn here, and we'll jump over to the VAB, and I'll show you guys a little bit more on how I created this and how I worked everything out. And yeah, so I'll see you there. Alright, so let's get this thing going. Most of the stuff, like I said, this is the #1 thing that I do, and this works out very well as far as like setting it up and how everything works. Now, each part, for the most part, is most of them are basically designed around each other part. So it sounds weird, but basically, if I were to want it to detach this is the engine module without any real this is before I actually welded it, and I just made sure everything was really good, and you know, everything was all set up. You want to base it around one center piece, which is kind of what I've done. I've always had like a center to these kinds of ships. You always want some kind of center to it, where basically one part is not changing in any kind of way. At least like down the middle of this ship, there is consistently parts running all the way from the front all the way to the back of the ship that run straight down the middle. And this is, you know, the general example that I can pretty much give you. And if I were to load in, I don't know where these parts are. I believe some of them are scattered around here, so I don't know where some of them fall. I believe this would be it right here. Now, the one thing that does become a problem is that some of these parts do not want to actually load in. So I think what I can do is basically start from scratch. I can get rid of this, and I can start from the beginning, where I don't know where each part is located. I think this would be the bridge. There you go. And you just bring this one up, and then each part can connect to the last part. Now, there are certain things I'm leaving out here, like the docking ports, which I'll just throw a couple of them on here just to show how everything kind of lines up. Just bring this over. Now, these parts are already welded, so that's why everything is all connected. Now, the welding mod itself is in the description. The original weld mod is in this description. I don't know if it's been updated or changed yet, but I believe they are working on that, and the version I'm using is right below it, and it has fixed next to that. So we'll get the second piece here. Now, hopefully this will connect. I mean, there are some issues with these things connecting up, and that just has to do with the fact that it's welded parts, and these welded parts don't actually all work sometimes. They're very finicky on how they want to work. Like, some of them have to be the root part, other ones can't be the root part, or it doesn't matter whether or not it's the root part. So I can probably change this around, because this one I think wants to be the root, and I could go with this and bring this up. And you can see that there is a lot of graphic lag just by using these parts as well. It just freaks out my computer a little bit, and there's really nothing I can do about that, but, you know, whatever. So let's get to the bridge. I think I should be able to attach the bridge now. Let's see. Hopefully this works. Come on. And you can just see that this thing just lags out too like crazy. Alright, there we go. So just shift this over a couple. And I tried to line up everything, and there's only so much I can do as far as everything being perfectly lined up. But you can see that right here would be docking ports, so I'll just throw these on here. Now, lining this up as far as the docking bays was probably the hardest thing to do, because it just needed absolute precision, and with this game you don't get very great precision when it comes to building anything as far as docking bays or any kind of curved stuff. It just doesn't like it. So let's just, there we go. Now this part's a little bit embedded, but it's not that big of a deal. So you can see how these line up, they dock up. And I'll just go ahead and do this on this bottom piece here. Now hopefully, once again, we don't have any problems with getting these two pieces connected. Let's see. No, that's not the part we're looking for. Yeah, so here's the basically just the power module, and you can see it's having some kind of weird issue. But we got it all connected up. Everything's looking pretty good. I'll just move this up a little bit because this is just getting a little bit too big for my liking. I think, or well, I should say we're running out of room. There we go. But you can see most of the stuff is planned out as far as where I wanted each thing. The welding mod, if you're going to download it, it does not work well with docking ports, so, oh god. Yeah, this is another issue with some of my parts that I haven't been able to figure out yet, but there is apparently a way to fix that as well. I just didn't care. Let's see. Alright, yeah, so we got our fuel module here. I apparently put it under utilities. I guess I just didn't care. But let's see. It looks like we're probably not going to be able to get this part attached. But I can show you guys the basic idea on when you're building stuff like this and how you get things to line up, and the basic idea behind how you get things lined up. So let's say we are just going to be adding another module here, and let's say we're gonna add some fuel tanks to this or something along the lines of that. So we'll just put a fuel tank here. And, you know, then we'll place some other weird style modules or something that we couldn't create on the outside, let's say, or we want some different size parts. I could even do this better with a under utility, it can grab like a reactor or something. Let's see, I'll just throw in a battery here and a reactor. So like, let's say on the outside we did not want any kind of batteries or, you know, something like that, where you can see like on the inside here I just have all of this structure, but on the outside I have the helium tanks. So you would take something like this here. Let's see. Alright, there we go. So we'll add something like this, and we'll just create this real quick. Alright, so you guys can see, I mean, I'm not really doing this 100% to the way I would like to show you, but this is about as close as we'll get as far as how I can show you how we're going to attach these. So you want to leave a little bit of a gap like we have right here, and we'll go and grab some docking ports. There we go. So I'm not going to go ahead and place these all the way around because it just would be a waste of time. So let's just get this down to 1 so we don't end up screwing anything up. There we go. So basically what you want to do, and just to get everything lined up, is you want to kind of just zoom in as close as you can to where you can just kind of eye it. This is basically where it just lies on you being able to eye it correctly. So let's get this going right there. So you want these as close as they can possibly get without them being inside of each other. And wow, that just doesn't sound right. Yeah, there we go. So something like this would work. I would suggest getting it even closer. I think that would be probably your best bet. But the thing is that you want this to be able to connect in the center and on all the sides here for the best strength. Also, if you don't connect all the docking ports all the way around, it will affect fuel flow if it's all separate parts and stuff like that, and you'll have like a whole new mess of issues. And it's just not fun. I've done it before, and I regret doing it. So that's where I'll just leave it with that. So now, certain things with the weld mod also create some problems as well. One of the major issues I had was trying to get the HAB modules, these inflatable ones, attached properly. And you can see that there's so many attachment points, but the one thing it will do, and this is just very random, and I can't really repeat it, it just depends on how the module itself is situated, which way it's pointing, and all kinds of different stuff. And if you have it pointed in any other direction, or you twist it around and then you save it that way, it will cause some issues where modules, even though the node for attachment is directly on the top of it like this, when you go to actually attach something, it will be sideways or crooked a little bit. It will be off to the side. It won't be directly, like if you were to attach it onto here, it would be sticking off. If you were to attach it right here where I'm kind of just pointing with my mouse, it would be pointing off to the right or to the left, or in some kind of strange direction that you did not intend for it to do at all. So that's just some of the issues I've had. The other thing that you really want to just kind of look at is where you can pack on fuel, where you can put stuff, and just make things a little bit more efficient. You know, certain things I could not add on here due to the weld mod, which certain things moved around. So it's a very, you have to learn what you can do and what you can't do, at least with the mod currently that I'm using. So that's mostly where it all lies. So I hope I cleared up some of this stuff. The engine module I'm going to cover last. Let's get rid of this, and actually we'll get rid of all of this and make it the root part. Where is the engine module? It should be, most of these I save under science or utility. It really just depends, but it makes it easier when you save it under like science, because for the most part no other mods really do anything with science. So that's pretty much where I save most of my welded parts. So you can see with the engine module here, it's all based around one root part, and you can see the root part right is this one right here. Now this is all welded, so I can't really show you everything, but getting a lot of this set up required a lot of time and a lot of effort and patience. Some of this, when you look at some of it, you can tell I used some symmetry, but a lot of it was by hand and just by eyeing it. These struts that run down, they were not put there, you know, with any kind of, you know, symmetry tool or anything like that. I basically had to do all of those by eye, and you can see with stuff like this, you wonder how I got it all compact. Basically, it's just these two angles meeting up, and that's all it is. And afterwards, a lot of this stuff was just packed in there for space and just to make it a little bit easier and make it look really nice. The one thing I wanted was basically tubes running all the way down, and basically tubes running to each separate engine, so you know you have the idea that, you know, fuel is running to these engines to keep them going, and this one down the center as well. And the ion engines are all just kind of separate around here along with the hydrogen engines. But setting this up was no easy task. Most of it is based off of this kind of spoke design that I've been using, and that is pretty much the whole design in a nutshell. So anyways, guys, if you have any more questions, I'd be more than willing to kind of clarify some of this stuff. It is a very hard thing to do, and the one thing I will say is build your ship in the VAB exactly what you want in space. Build the exact same thing in the VAB, whether or not it be welded parts or just all 100% just the parts themselves, and then learn to separate it into separate chunks for a launch, or if you just plan on hyper editing it into orbit or whatever you want to do. But build it in the VAB and really get an idea on what you want before you just start building stuff, because if you start building stuff, you're going to run into a lot of problems in compatibility, and you're going to have a lot of issues involving just not enough fuel or not the right engines or just all kinds of stuff. So anyways, guys, if you like what you see here, subscribe. There's always more to come. To all you new people, welcome. And yeah, I will see you next time.